Oh hi. Rönne, the city, the largest settlement of the island of Bornholm in the Baltic Sea belonging to Denmark. In 1970, 2002 Rönne was a part of the commune of 29.11 km of the same name. As a part of the Amt Bornholm. Now carries the status of the administrative center of the Amt. A third of the territory of nowadays non-existent commune occupies arrival Rönne. As of 2014, within arrival 12,000 people lived, stretching for a small distance on the north and the south of the city. Knusker is the share of other 2/3 territories arrival. Possessing natural port and holding strategic position on the Baltic Sea, Rönne reached blossoming during entry into structure of Germany and Sweden that was caused by catch of a huge number of herring in due time. Now with cobbled streets, half-timbered buildings and the great museums attracts, besides Danes, tourists from Germany, Sweden and Poland. Approximately in 1000 near the natural port of the future Rönne there was a small fishing settlement. In 1275 the small chapel of Saint Nicolai at which place is of the same name now the Lutheran church built in 1918 was built. Soon the settlement received the status of the trade city which was under control of a burgomaster with own court. At the beginning of the 14th century the King of Denmark, the Archbishop of London and a number of the North German princes combated for Rönne. The aspiration of Germans to seize it was explained by presence at the city of strategic situation in connection with finding of Bornholm between the Baltic coast of Germany on the one hand and the island of Gotland at the southern coast of Sweden, which is also extremely interested in mastering the city, on the other hand. In 1360 as a result of penetration of Christianity arrival Rönne was formed. By the beginning of the 15th century repeatedly I was exposed to the robberies and the fires organized by dealers from Lübeck, a peculiar capital of the Hanseatic Union. In 1525 the city passed under control of Hanse because of absence of an opportunity at Denmark to repay own debts. In Rönne the Hanseatic merchants who brought the significant contribution to development of fishing trade got. Nevertheless the taxes reaching for those times the huge sizes and which weren't introduced earlier began to be collected from the population. In the city flashed discontent as a result of which Lübeckites were forced to leave Rönne. However, two merchants from northern Germany nevertheless allowed to do business in the city. As a result of growth of discontent with policy of Hanse Rönne in 1576 I passed under control of Danes, despite growth of strategic importance of the city in the 16th century. At this time fishery ceased to play an essential role in economy. In the 17th century the city twice, in 1619 and 1655, played there 4 decades for restoration of full-fledged life of citizens were required struck. In April 1658 Rönne, under the terms of the Roskilde World, I was a part of Sweden. In December of the same year the population expelled Swedes, thus having put an end to occupation. In 1834 the building of a town hall in which during the long period of time were located, besides authorities, court and prison was erected on the main square of the city. On May 7-8, 1945 after refusal of the German commandant of the city to capitulate, Rönne underwent bombings of the Soviet aircraft therefore 212 houses were destroyed. In spite of the fact that bombings of the city it was declared in advance, 10 people died. The sea part of the territory of Denmark was released already on May 4, however the island of Bornholm passed to Rönne only on May 9. Prisoners of war from the German garrison were sent to Germany. The Soviet Union finally disengaged troops from the island only on April 5, 1946 as a result of signing of the relevant agreement with the government of the Danish Kingdom. On restoration of the city, namely buildings in due architectural style, fancy streets and half-timbered buildings, after bombings several years left. In Rennes built 300 wooden houses to the means offered Sweden. Generally on restoration of the city of Denmark, including the Faroe Islands and Greenland, spent 8 million Danish kroner. In the period of the Middle Ages, Rennes had no special economic value and I specialized only in catching of a herring. By the end of the 16th century the fishing industry fell into decay and only 300 years later found a former role in city life. The production of ceramics, which is most successfully developing in those days, is in huge demand in Rennes to this day. So, in 50 shops which are engaged in sale of pottery are located. However, is she part of funds in treasury the tourists who annually have a rest on sandy beaches of the city deposit. In the second half of the 18th century, the beginning of the 20th century in the city the hour cases which over time glorified Rennes were issued. The foundation was laid for their production after grounding in the region Rennes in 1744 of the Dutch vessel going from England. On its board found 5 old watch which unforeseen grounding caused certain damage. Having noticed malfunction in time shown for hours, seamen sent for the local turner, who Lottisen Arbo able to adjust clockworks. After successful repair he made the decision to arrange production of hours in the city. Soon in the city a number of the workshops which began release of the hours dispersing on hands from huge success owing to the low cost opened. At the beginning of the 19th century in Rennes there were about 30 hour cases of masters. To the first half of the 40th years of the 19th century the number of annually made hours reached 2,000. Hours in wooden and metal cases in different variations were marketed. The huge popularity was gained by the small pendulum clock. By the end of the 19th century production of hours manually fell into decay owing to establishing release of cheaper hours commercially. Sights at tourists, cobbled streets and low wooden lodges are of particular interest. On streets Laxagade and Storgade a large number of historical constructions, including mansions of the nobility and trading houses of merchants is located. The most known sites Rennes. The museums of the island of Bornholm are among: Defense Rennes, St. Nicholas Lutheran Church, School of Writing Smedegård which is in the southern part of the city, and the building of the beacon built in 1880. The Museum of Bornholm is devoted Rennes and to the island and contains expositions on their stories since a paleo up to now, including by situation during the German occupation. In halls of the museum monuments of material culture Scandinavian bronze and iron are exposed centuries. During this certain period of time I had got my owner's idol subsequently acquired by the National Museum of Denmark and used as his logo. Also a number of the Roman coins, pottery and pictures is at the disposal of the museum. St. Nicholas Lutheran Church, to which attached the characteristic bell tower in due time, is under direct supervision of the Diocese of Copenhagen D.
In 1918, the area of this Lutheran church, constructed in 1275, underwent expansion and full reconstruction of the building was made. The Museum of Defense Rennes was located in a round tower which thickness of walls is 3.5 m, the citadel called also.
Built in 1744 for protection of the city in case of attack, she was practically not used for a designated purpose. Funds of the museum have guns, blades, bombs and samples of a uniform. Only main square parades were held in due time. Also there is a number of sites. Public library, Noorderbank, merchant warehouses and mansions of the nobility, among which there is Eriksen's Got. Eriksen's house, 1806. Nowadays is a part of the Museum of Bornholm. Commandant Joyen. The House of the Commandant, 1846. Nowadays in his territory there is a museum of ceramics. An Amtmanskoyen. The House of the Governor, on Storgod Street 36. The Merchant Warehouse Stolboden, 1624. Was among the oldest half-timbered structures of the city. Authorities said at Torkhus's building, located near the area and built in 1834, in due time there were a court and prison. The premises of City Theatre and 1823 represent the oldest and important construction of this kind which is using for a designated purpose in Denmark. A construction in 1744 of Govedvagen. Sondergate 12. The Danish guard room a large number of the bricks which were once making Fortress Hammerskjus, being in a northern part of the island of Bornholm, was put to use. Now it is the oldest brick construction Rennes. Also in the city there is a Methodist church with the characteristic bell tower, built in 1917, 1918 and consecrated on January 6, 1918. It is possible to carry to number of a site also the Baptist temple in the center Rennes, built in 1888. Near the temple, on the bank of the Baltic Sea, there is a small white octahedral beacon N built in 1880, but which in 1989 stopped being used directly. Transport connection Rennes with the mainland of Denmark is carried out by means of a ferry. So, the Bornholmer Transport Company carries out ferries in Kjøge, Sweden, Sassnitz, Germany, Palferries in Swansea. Also the high-speed catamaran goes to Ystad, connected by the railroad with Copenhagen from Rennes. From the airport located outside the city Bornholm at all times years are carried out flights to the capital of Denmark, however in the summer the range of possible flights increases. Rennes is in a zone of a temperate sea climate with total absence of a temperature difference that favors to cultivation at considerable distance from the main habitat of a local grade of the fig called the Bornholm Diamond. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.